So Sarah, we'll start out with you. Set out the big picture for us here. Why should public college be free?
All right, well, first, let me start by talking a little bit about what students in this country are going through. Because I think that for us to design effective policies, and in particular, policies that are more effective than what we have right now, we have to really ground ourselves in the problem and make sure that we understand it. Students are going through something that I've called the new economics of college in America, which means that college is imperative, it doesn't feel optional, it's hard to get ahead without it, and families don't have the resources that they once did. They don't have the ability to move ahead in quite the same way. For many of them, their incomes are stagnant or declining. And that extends beyond just working class folks. That's also including a broad swath of the middle class. And at the same time, the price of higher education, including in the public sector, is higher than it has ever been before. And notably, it is also increasingly high at the nation's community colleges. And what that means for those students is that education has become risky. When they hear that they are supposed to go to school, and they are told that financial aid, if they qualify for it, will take care of things, and then they show up and they receive price tags like over $8,000 a year to attend a community college for a person making less than $30,000 a year after all grants and scholarships, they not only struggle to make ends meet while they're in school, but they also encounter that as a betrayal. And that betrayal extends well beyond the aid system to their view of their schools. It colors their experiences in school, and it's even, I think, extending to their view of government. And I think that we have to consider all of those things from start to finish, from the effects on college experiences and who attends, to issues of completion, to issues of how we are positioning public higher education in people's minds as they grow up and go into becoming voting members of our society when we think about what we do next. Well, I think that there are several key failures in the current system that are addressed by free college. The first major failure is a focus on means testing, which essentially is there so that we can target what we call scarce resources at the people who need them the most. And we've been doing this for 50 years. It's why we have that lovely thing called the FAFSA, the small American bureaucratic tragedy that so many American students have to experience. And our efforts to make a better FAFSA or to fix the needs analysis have actually consumed us. While we fail to acknowledge that a growing number of people, even if they do the form and do it correctly and get it verified, are still not going to get what they need. The people who qualify for Pell Grants aren't getting what they need. The people who don't qualify are deemed non-needy, as if the vast majority of the middle class wasn't struggling with today's prices. And there's a growing segment of people who cannot fill out the FAFSA. Undocumented students, students whose families won't provide them with the paperwork that they need. So I think the means testing isn't working. Even though we'd like it to, it simply isn't. And it's doing one other thing that I think is so detrimental, is that it's also divisive. It leads people to ask questions like, why didn't I get any financial aid when my roommate got a Pell Grant and she has a new purse? Those are not productive discussions, and they have also contributed to the declining purchasing power of the Pell Grant over time because there isn't a major powerful political constituency to prop up this means-tested program. As some political scientists have put it, programs for poor people are poor programs. So the first most important thing universal college does is it gets rid of the application. It brings everyone into the same boat when it comes to public higher education. And it has far more potential, I think, to restore and invigorate a constituency around public higher education. And I believe, and I want to say one thing, I don't think Bernie Sanders introduced this first, I think it was President Obama, that we have seen since that time some of this happen. This is one of the most popular ideas around American higher education that we have seen in years. And far from being a failure, in less than 2 years, 37 states have started some version of this. And I think we need to take that seriously. We are less than 2 years into this conversation. What I think is so important is that we work our way through it and we not reject it in favor of Band-Aids on the status quo. Part of that, though, is there has to be a much more vibrant constituency, a much larger and more concerned constituency of people who vote to make that happen. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have today, regardless of free college or not, is that higher education has not been previously people's voting issue. And a lot of what they're doing for college is simply saving. As I keep telling them, saving isn't going to get you there. Only voting will do that. And if you look at the $40 to $60 billion a year that we're spending on private higher education right now, it's pretty hard to accept arguments that we can't afford to fund public higher education. We can't afford it because we made a choice to divert the money elsewhere. And so I think we need to have a serious conversation about not only what we can afford, but what we can afford to not do.